Today we're going to walk through how to schedule a Zoom meeting and share the link, as well as some of the features within a Zoom meeting that you will see as the host. To start, you'll find that there is a few options to start the meeting. You can start a new meeting without scheduling by simply clicking on the new meeting button and starting your screen. To share the meeting, if you go to Manage Participants, there's an Invite button that will allow you to start your Zoom rooms by email, by phone, or the easiest option is to simply copy the URL or invitation to your clipboard and then paste it where you would like it. Another option is to schedule. When you schedule a meeting, you can name the meeting whatever you would like. You can go through and choose the date you would like to schedule the meeting for, as well as the time. You can choose the duration and whether or not it's a recurring meeting. If you make this a recurring meeting, then all of the settings that you create today will be the same for every meeting going forward. Sometimes it's easier to make a new link for each meeting you have, while others you may find you would prefer just to send out the same link. You can create a meeting ID or use your personal meeting ID, whichever you prefer, and then you can turn on a password. This password adds some security to your meeting so that only those with the password are allowed to enter. You can decide if the videos are on for you and the participants upon entry, as well as the audio. If you go to advanced options, you can enable the waiting room, let people join before you start the meeting, mute participants upon entry, as well as allowing only authenticated users into Zoom, as well as recording the meeting automatically. You can also record the meeting starting after it starts, and I will show you how to do that in just a moment. Once you have all the settings the way you would like them, you simply hit schedule. When you hit schedule, your meeting invitation will pop up on the screen. This is what you're going to share with your guests. So you can either copy this whole invitation to the clipboard, which is handy because it allows people to join the meeting through different mediums. They can follow the Zoom link, or they can enter the meeting ID and password if there is one, or they can dial in from their phone if they're unable to connect via video due to lack of internet access. Once you have it on the clipboard, you would just copy and paste it into your email system or your online learning platforms such as Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams. Another option is to simply copy and paste the URL and share that if you know that everyone is joining for a video conference and has internet access. If you only share that link, anyone without internet access will not be able to join. So you'll want to know your guests and their capabilities before choosing that route. But once you have this copy and pasted, again, you would just add it to either your email system or your online learning platform, whether it's Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, Schoology, whatever you might be using. Let's start a meeting and explore the features. The first feature I'm going to show you as the host of Zoom are the options that you'll find at the bottom of your screen if you're using a laptop. If you're using an iPad, you're going to find these options at the top. When you go in, you're going to see your mute and your stop video. These are choices that you will also see as a guest in someone else's Zoom video. But you will also find at the bottom here some extra features. The first we want to point out is the security feature. This security feature can allow you to lock the meeting down and enable the waiting room. Locking the meeting down is going to prevent anyone from coming into the meeting. So for those of you who have heard about instances of people bombing Zoom meetings and joining when they should not, this is a preventative feature for that, as well as the waiting room. If you enable the waiting room, anytime someone enters your Zoom meeting, you have to approve them before they can actually join. So you can see their name, you can see who it is, and if you're not sure who it is, you don't have to let them enter. You can also allow participants to use the different features on their end through the security tab. You can allow your participants to share their screen, participate in the chat, or rename themselves. I always like to have this rename themselves on here because if you're using a cell phone or depending on your device, if you don't have an account, your name may not pop up. And especially if we're using the waiting room, I want my participants to be able to name themselves so I know who they are. You will also find Manage Participants. This tab is where you're going to let people in if they are in the waiting room. So you'd see this button turn orange when somebody tries to join, and their name is going to pop up above yours as the host. And there will be a button to admit them into the meeting, or ignore them if they're not supposed to be there. This is also where you can invite individuals. So if someone's link is not working or you need to resend it, you can always go to Manage Participants and hit invite, and you can copy the invitation or copy the URL, just like we practiced before when we initially set up the meeting. You can mute everyone's microphones or unmute everyone's microphones, depending on the purpose of the meeting. And you can also have some extra features at the bottom, dots of 3, click on me, to allow participants to unmute themselves, rename themselves, play or exit or enter and exit chime when people come in and out of the meeting. So as a host, that oftentimes helps me know when someone new has come, if I need to reiterate a point, or just to know who is leaving where. And again, for the waiting room, the lock meeting. So the features you can find here are sometimes duplicates of what you can find under the security tab. So you can do the same things from either place. To close my participants, I simply hit the downward arrow and close it. If I like it as a separate screen, I can pop it out and have it separate. That's up to me. Your chat is a great feature during any Zoom meeting. Some people may not want to speak out in front of the group and would prefer to do the typing. Or again, based on their internet access, it may just be easier for them to chat. Their audio may come in discombobulated, so this might be easier for everyone. So if you click the chat, your Zoom chat will come up on the side. So you can see where you can write your message at the bottom, as well as decide who that message is going to go to. So initially, your default is to send a message to everyone. However, once people join the group, you can arrow down and all their names will show up. So if you would like to send someone in the group a private message, you simply arrow down, choose the name, and you can send a message just to that person. When you send it, it will say privately next to the name, so you know it went to just that individual and not the whole group. When you are done with your chat, you can save your chat. So if this was a classroom setting or a meeting where people were making decisions, taking notes, you may want to save that chat and have it documented, and it will save in the same file that your recording saves should you save that. So Zoom creates its own folder and it will be right in there for you to view. You can also use those features to decide if the participants can chat or not. You may want the participants to only be able to chat with you as the host. So if you're working with a classroom and you would prefer your students to not be able to chat with each other privately while you're speaking with them, you can choose for participants to chat only with you as the host, And so they can send you messages and they can ask you questions, but they will not be able to chat with each other. Or everybody can only send public chats. Or you can give everyone a choice, or you can turn off the chat completely. Those features can be very helpful as well. Again, to close the chat, you can simply do the arrow down and close out, or you can pop it out to see in its own box. The share screen is very helpful, especially if you're sharing documents or teaching a class. So if I hit this upward arrow, you're going to get your settings. So you can allow one participant to share at a time. Multiple participants can be sharing their screen simultaneously. So this is nice, especially if you're trying to collaborate on something. And if you go to advanced sharing options, you can decide on whether the participants can share their screen or not, and who can start sharing when someone else is sharing. So you as the host could take over somebody else's screen, which I always like. You always hope that everyone will stay appropriate on a Zoom chat. That may not always be the case. So I want to make sure that I can start sharing when someone else is sharing if I need to take something down quickly. Once I'm ready to share, I click the green button. And now I have my choices. So I can share my whole screen. So I could share my desktop, I could share an internet browser, whatever the case might be. If I was on an iPhone or an iPad, I could share that. Or I could share a specific tab. So if I'm working within my browser and I only want to share the one screen and not all the other tabs, I can specifically decide which I want to share. But then if I minimize that and try to move on to something else, it will not share. So you have to be very mindful of what you're trying to do with your participants and if they need to see something within only a browser, or if you're going to be minimizing and using other programs, you may just want to stick with the screen. You'll also notice that there's a whiteboard option. So if you're trying to explain a concept, you can use the whiteboard and all of your features are at the top. So you can draw, you can stamp around, you can add a spotlight so that students know where you want them to look, where you want them to be looking. You can add text to the whiteboard. And of course, you can erase things that you no longer want. You can format the colors and the width and the font. And then you can clear the whole board should you want. So you can clear all the drawings. Your viewers can also participate in the whiteboard. So maybe you want to just clear the participants' drawings and what they added, or just yours, only leaving what the participants did. Once you have everything done, if you want to save the work that you've done on the whiteboard, you can simply click Save. And it's been saved and you can show it in the folder. So if you're not sure where it went, you can simply hit that and then you can copy and paste this file to wherever you want it to go so that you can easily find it in the future. When you're done, you simply hit Stop Share and then you're back to the meeting. I had mentioned before that in the early setup stages of scheduling a meeting that you can choose to record the meeting from the start automatically. However, sometimes there may be conversations when people first enter the room that you may not want to be recorded. So if you would prefer to record later on or only a section, the record button is here for you to click at any time. When you click that, you can decide if you're going to record on this computer or save it to the cloud. If you save it to the computer or the cloud, it will alert all of the participants that the meeting is being recorded. So no one is unaware that they're being recorded. Everybody has to acknowledge it. When you're done recording, you hit stop. And when you're done with the meeting, the video will be converted and saved in your files. Just like before, it will show the folder and open the folder where that recording was saved. So you can copy and paste it and save it wherever you would like. For our hearing impaired, you can turn on closed captioning. or you can assign it to somebody to assign someone to type. So you can decide which feature you would prefer to use, but this will help you stay ADA compliant as you go through your Zoom meeting. You can create breakout rooms, which I covered in another tutorial, so I'm not going to go in super in depth in this. If you would like to see all the steps of breakout rooms, please feel free to check out my other tutorial. But this is where you would decide how many rooms you would like and how participants will join that room. And then you can turn on reactions. So if you want to clap for somebody, if you want to give someone a thumbs up, you can add some character to your meeting, which is fantastic. So those are the basic features of a Zoom meeting. The next step will be some of the features that you would only see if somebody else joined the meeting. So let's start that next. When you have someone in your meeting and they've shared a screen with you, you will see additional options at the top. It'll tell you that you're viewing somebody else's screen, and then you'll see a view options with a drop-down menu. You can see the different features. You can fit it to the window. You can change the ratio to make the screen bigger or smaller, whatever is best for you as the viewer. But there's also some other features here as well. For example, there's a request remote control. Should you push this button, it will send a request to the participant that is sharing the screen, and they will have to accept it. Once they've accepted it, you can maneuver their desktop and do the clicking on their end for them. So you're taking over the driver's seat for somebody else's computer, which can be very handy, especially if you're helping someone through a problem, or if perhaps a student can't find what they're needing to find and they're not understanding your directions. You can simply request remote control and guide them through it. They will see all the steps that you do, and they will see the mouse moving so they can follow you step by step as you drive for that part of the meeting. They then can give you back remote control so that everybody goes back to controlling their own computer. Another great feature is annotate. If I click this annotate, a toolbar pops up, and this allows me to do multiple things very similar to the whiteboard that we saw before. So currently, the other participant shared a white screen on their end. And so this is not the built-in whiteboard on Zoom, but instead another program from their computer. But using these annotative skills and tools, I can do everything the same. So I can draw a picture, I can add my stamps. So if they're sharing, if you have a student who's sharing a worksheet or sharing some other types of online work, you can go through and you can star, you can check mark, you can point an arrow for them to look at something specifically. You can draw their attention just as you would with the whiteboard options, but you can do it on anything from their screen. Again, when you are done, if you would like to save what you've annotated, you can click Save. The last component you'll want to know when sharing your screen, under View Options, you can stop participants sharing. So when it's time for them to be done, if they can't stop it on their end, or if you need to take control for any reason, you can always view options, stop participants sharing, and it will go back to the normal meeting. Those are all the basic features of being a host in a Zoom meeting. Feel free to check out my other videos for more in-depth steps on using some of these features.